I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter Sophia when I was 18. It was a hard pregnancy mentally, and I didn't really know how I felt about the pregnancy to begin with. Her dad and I were constantly arguing, and it left me feeling small and insecure within myself and my relationship. As for my daughter, she seemed super healthy at all of my OB/GYN appointments. It wasn't until she was born did anyone find out she was born with multiple rare heart defects. These defects were caused by a rare genetic mutation called DiGeorge Syndrome. I can't go too deep into what that is because I can barely comprehend what that was myself. All I understood was that she could not cry nor eat like a baby with a healthy heart could. Anything that can raise her heartbeat levels could be possibly fatal to her and cause her to go through a cardiac arrest. For 4 weeks, my daughter was in the hospital before her cardiology team had told me and my boyfriend, now husband, that our daughter had to go upstate to Stanford for a very specific heart surgery that she needed in order to survive. I was nervous to have her be taken in a separate plane then to Stanford, but I complied since it seemed like it was the best thing to do for her at the time. I went up to Stanford the next day, and my grandmother came with me, so I wasn't up there alone. Everything was looking to be very good, and my daughter was already being prepped for her surgery for the next morning. Doctors came into the room where I was holding my baby girl and explained how her surgery was going to be and explained all the risks. I signed every consent form that was given to me. I did not care. I just wanted my baby to be happy and healthy. Once her pre-physical for the surgery was done, I kissed my daughter and informed the nurses in charge of my daughter that my grandmother and myself would be leaving to go to a nice lunch out of the hospital. We had been in the Stanford hospital for about 3 days, and my grandmother thought it would be best for me to get out of the hospital for a little while. We got to the mall nearby that was about a 10-minute drive, and right when we sat down to order food, I got a call from the head doctor that was on my daughter's medical team. She had said that something had gone wrong, and I was needed back at the hospital as soon as possible because my daughter's case was now deemed an emergency. My daughter had suffered from a cardiac arrest, and any efforts to help revive her from it was proving to be futile. By the time I had finally reached my daughter's hospital room, there was a swarm of nurses and doctors talking and handing things to each other. I was pulled to the side of the room where my baby girl's head health doctor and the emergency surgery doctor were waiting for me. They had told me my daughter had suffered from a heart attack and was being put on life support. She had gone 45 minutes without proper oxygen levels to her brain, causing her to essentially go brain dead. I lost it. I screamed the scariest cry I have ever heard in my life. Everything else was a blur. I tried to move, but my legs felt like they were locked to the ground I was standing on. I barely remember anything else for the next few days. I allowed everything around me to happen, and I didn't stop anything. Family came up to Stanford from both sides of the family to meet her and be there to support. It wasn't until 3 days after my baby was put on life support did her dad and I decide to take her off and let her go. It hurt, and I couldn't handle seeing my daughter on her deathbed alone. But on the last night my daughter was alive, I finally gathered the courage to see my daughter by myself after assuring family members to see her all day. The nurse taking care of her that night was so sweet, and I will never forget her kindness. She helped me with getting comfortable and positioning my daughter in a way she would be most comfortable while I held her. The nurse left, and after 10 minutes of me holding her, my daughter took her final breath and I felt her body go limp. I sat there silently screaming until an actual noise came out of my mouth. Her nurse had heard my cry and came in. She checked my daughter's pulse, where she found none. My daughter's funeral came shortly after. It was a beautiful ceremony, and so many people came and helped me out with paying for the affair. I honestly don't remember crying a lot that day. I just knew that was the last time I would ever make an event for her, so I conducted myself the best way I can. Her dad and I went through a lot after her funeral. He almost went down a path of alcohol, and I became so bitter after her death, but somehow we made it through. At least that's what I like to think. Of course, I still struggle till this day because of it all, and it honestly traumatized me enough to be hesitant on having another baby, but I am sure I will be willing to try again sometime in the late future. I just hope my daughter is happy wherever she is.